All right, today we're talking about why you should always start when you start your business by focusing on strategy and then get into tactics and plans and implementing all of those things later. It's about strategy first. My guest today is David Meyer. I'll tell you more about him in a second, so stay tuned.
Welcome to the Smart Business Revolution podcast, where we feature top entrepreneurs, business leaders, and thought leaders and ask them how they built key relationships to get where they are today. Now, let's get started with the show.
All right, welcome everyone. John Corcoran here. I'm the host of this show. And you know, if you've listened before, you've heard me say this, that we've got a great archive of 15 plus years of interviews with smart CEOs, founders, and entrepreneurs from all kinds of companies. And if you check out those archives, you will see we've had Netflix and Grubhub, Redfin, Gusto, Kinko's, Activation Blizzard, LendingTree, lots of great episodes for you to check out. And before we get into this interview, this episode is brought to you by Rise 25, where we help businesses to give to and connect to their dream relationships and partnerships. How do we do that? We do that by helping you to run your podcast. We are the easy button for a company to launch and run a podcast. We do three things: strategy, accountability, and full execution. In fact, we invented what some are calling the Wix of B2B podcasting. It's our platform, podcast co-pilot. And, David, I know that looking at your background, preparing for this interview, that for you, relationships are incredibly important, just like they are for me. And that is why I love bringing someone like you, a new friend. We don't know each other all that well, bringing you onto the show and sharing with others your journey, your stories. And so I'm really excited about that here today. So if anyone wants to learn about how you can do that as well, you can go to rise25.com or email us at support@rise25.com. All right. And a quick shout out to Ami Kassar of Multifunding. He's a friend who led to my connection with David here, because David and I are in a group that is led by Ami, and he does a great job with that. But first, my guest is David Meyer. He's the partner at Spoke Marketing. It's a full service marketing agency based out of St. Louis, Missouri. He's got over about 16 years at Spoke Marketing. And he has been instrumental in designing and executing sales-driven marketing strategies tailored to entrepreneurs and emerging businesses. Before that, he worked at a number of different agencies, had some different fits and starts with different businesses he'd started over the years, and we're going to get into those as well. And David, I'm excited to have you here today. And I always love to start by asking people a little bit about what they were like as a kid. And you were out there, you were mowing lawns and shoveling driveways. Grew up, a Midwestern kid, keeping score in a basketball league at 14 years old. Tell us about young David and the types of jobs you had as a kid.
It's just always doing something. I think my both my grandparents, grandfathers were business owners, entrepreneurs. One of them had a furniture and clothing store. So these are both first generation immigrants that had furniture and clothing stores throughout town. I think he started by selling newspapers on the corners in the early 1910s.
Wow.
And the other one was a pharmacist, had a pharmacy down in the north side of St. Louis. And what was interesting about him, he had polio as a child. So he had, one arm was a little bit more than decorative. And at the time, there was old mortar and pestle.
Where they grind the stuff. Yeah.
So when he started, they're like, you can't be a farmer. But he could.
Wow. Made it work. Did you, as a kid, do you recall like looking up to them? Sometimes people, when they grow up around a family business or they see parents or grandparents running a business, they see the downside of it. And so they don't want to have their own business. What was it like for you?
Well, and my dad was a solo practitioner doctor. He's a Jewish brain surgeon, psychiatrist.
Okay.
So I saw him firsthand as basically an entrepreneur. If you're a solo practitioner, you're running your own business.
Yeah.
And there's no class in med school about running a business. So it was interesting watching that. the
Did you
long
see a struggle? Or did you see him being
hours.
challenged by it?
Saw the long hours. I saw, so I've learned some things not to do, but like exceedingly long hours, um, but a love of what he did.
Hmm.
So the combination, I don't know that he loved working. He retired when he was 80.
Well,
Uh, so he wanted to retire before he was one of those doctors that should have retired a few years ago.
hmm.
You know, he didn't want to be that guy. So
Yeah.
he at that point. And I think insurance, dealing with health insurance companies probably factored into it.
And were you driven to go shovel driveways and cut lawns and work in this basketball league because you wanted to make money, because you wanted to get out of the house, because you wanted to stay busy? What drove that?
I think it was money, having some independence, not having to ask my parents for whatever it is. Like I remember my first purchase that I saved up for was a Pentax K1000 SLR.
Hmm.
Um, and
This is a camera?
yeah, it's a
Okay.
can,
Okay.
but it was like, and I don't know that I ever told anybody that I wanted it. Like I'm like looking back, I don't think I told my parents that's really what I wanted
Hmm.
or ever asked for it or anything, but that was just like that was my goal for when I, saved up enough money, that's what I was gonna go do.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds similar to me. For me, it was when I turned 16, my parents gave me one of the worst cars that was on the road, a car that just would break down as I pulled into my high school parking lot. I mean, just embarrassing as heck. I mean, I should be grateful because it was wheels, but it was equal amounts embarrassment, and that motivated me to buy myself to save money to buy a car, which I did at about age 19 with cash. Now, I wish I'd taken that money and instead of buying a car for cash, I'd put it into Apple stock or something like that. That probably would have been a wiser decision, but hindsight's 2020. So, you also ended up starting a business after your freshman year in college. You wanted to see if there was something you could do to get yourself outside and be on hot asphalt for the summer in the summer
Oh,
heat. So you're
that's
tarring driveways.
isn't that everybody's dream?
God, it
Uh,
sounds atrocious.
it was it was an awful job. It was a buddy of mine and I went door to door, knocking in neighborhoods, um, tarring driveways for the summer. We knew nothing about it. I
How'd
think
you get into it?
I'm pretty sure it was his idea.
Okay.
Um, and he approached me and I'm like, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
And he knew nothing about it. And it took us a while to figure out how to estimate jobs and do them and make a profit and upsell. So by the end of summer, we had it sort of figured out, but it was still just incredibly horrible just work. It was
Yeah.
like
A
it was one of
slog.
the hottest summers. It was one of those 100-degree humid St. Louis summers,
Yeah.
and you're working with just
Hot
this
stuff.
that sticky material, like
Hmm.
the smell permeates everything. I
Mm.
don't recommend it.
Mm.
Did that
Um,
for a couple summers, but made good money. But
yeah. And you did one thing that you mentioned there that I think is incredibly valuable, which is knocking on doors. So were you knocking on doors and asking people if they wanted their,
oh
yeah,
yeah, it was door-to-door sales.
yeah.
And we also would put up signs after we did the job with our phone number on it. No cell phones back then.
Hmm.
And like in between coats of so we'd do one coat and then we'd knock on neighbors' doors as well then.
While it was drying or something.
Which in hindsight, we looked
Awful.
pretty, yeah.
Yeah. You're sweaty, you're hot, you're
Oh,
dripping.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't
Yeah.
know. Like, I think we just must have looked desperate or like sad or whatever enough that some people opened the doors, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't have opened the door for me.
You probably may help you realize that maybe doing something indoors with a computer would probably be a better idea here.
Yeah, we didn't have, yeah.
So we teased this at the beginning, saying that it starts with strategy, and a lot of times people focus on tactics. So do you think that there are maybe kernels that influenced what you do now? Like when you look back at this, you think about this, sealing driveways, it sounds very tactical. Like, you just thought, oh, okay, well, we'll just go out and we'll, sell people. But it seems like there's maybe kernels of, now what you do, there's so much thought that you put into what you do.
Um, I think, I mean, we would, I can't believe we're talking about sealing driveways, but
There's great lessons in this stuff.
I mean, the pitch was that it's going to make your driveway last longer. So it makes the cost of owning a driveway, it reduces the cost. You slap some tar on it every couple of
Yep.
years. You don't have to replace it. You seal the cracks, they don't get worse. I don't know that that's real strategy. But I had another business. This was I bought I bought my first house in 99. And I remember, realtors give you a gift or something after you buy
hmm
your house.
hmm
My realtor gave me, I think it was a mop and a galvanized bucket. Like,
Not the most thoughtful. Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
just so odd. It was
Yeah.
like, thanks. Um, and then shortly after that, I realized that I knew nothing about home ownership.
Mm.
And I you buy a car and it gives you a manual on when to change the tire or when to rotate the tires
Yeah.
or change the oil or the
Yeah.
belts or all the things that I don't hoses, whatever's in a car. And they give you the care and feeding of this car that the minute you drive off the lot, it depreciates.
Yeah.
And here I bought a house, which is supposedly a great investment. And I, I didn't know right away which one was the furnace and which one was water heater.
Mm.
Um, so I knew nothing about taking care of a house. I knew just
hmm
as little as I did about taking care of a car.
hmm
So I created a homeowner's manual with what to do, when to do, how to do, and I sold it to. Uh, the idea was to sell it to realtors
Not a
as
bad idea.
a closing gift,
Yeah.
and then follow up. Like you get, and it's still today. I get postcards or mailers from realtors with like the local, St. Louis Cardinals baseball schedule on it or the Blues hockey schedule on it. And that doesn't really tell me that you're an expert in real estate,
Yeah.
or where the art fairs are this summer. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
you're not professional. So it was, um, and I learned that it was really hard to sell to realtors. Uh,
Mm.
I don't want to disparage the profession, so I won't.
Why do you think they were a hard market to sell to?
Um, the ones who were doing well didn't have time to meet with me. And the ones who weren't doing well and had time with me would sell 5 or 10 homes a year.
hmm
So they weren't really good clients. And I think no kid, and this is nobody grows up wanting to be a realtor. Like no kid, like, the Phil Dunphy in Modern Family might be the exception. Um, they're not, I don't know. And this is, you don't want to generalize, but not business people. Marketing isn't their strong suit. So having that long term, the pitch there was, um, at the time, people were staying in their homes 5 to 7 years was the average. So it was when this person sells their home at 1313 Mockingbird Lane, they're going to call you. You say, hey, John, this is a
hmm
great investment. This is going to help you take care of your home. It's going to keep your maintenance costs down, but it's going to help your resale value.
hmm
So I know you think this is your forever home, but it probably isn't. And if that's the case, when you call me when you're ready to sell, I'll be able to go through this book and get you more money for your house than your next door neighbor because we'll be able to show how well it was maintained.
So to me, it sounds like a solid idea, but
Yeah,
you said that you had trouble selling it. So what point did you figure out that you needed to pull the plug, and how did you make that decision? Because that's a hard one.
so I I got a great meeting. I ended up getting a mortgage company as a client out of it, as a long-term client. So
A
it ended,
client for agency services or for marketing
yeah.
services? Okay.
Mark. So
Okay.
I did stuff for them, and
Got it.
so
So it indirectly led to other work that you
yeah,
got. Yeah. Okay.
it wasn't a
Okay.
total loss, but the
Uh,
the big aha for me was there's a real estate shop in St. Louis that is the biggest by far. I don't know if it still is, but this is 20 years ago. Um, I think they sold, I want to say 20,000 homes a year.
well,
Um, so I got a meeting with the head of the marketing department there, which took me a while to get. Like I was calling and
yeah.
finally got the meeting, pitched it to him, and he said, "This is great. This is a great idea. I love it." It's like, there's one problem. It's like, and I switched my business model. I was gonna give them to them free and sell ads in them for electricians or whatever.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
So instead of selling the books, they were gonna get them free. He's like, I love it. Here's the problem. If you give me 20,000 books on January 1st, I'm gonna have 19,999 on December 31st. I can't get my realtors to do one more thing.
Mm,
I can't getting them to follow a process or do anything. He's like, it won't work.
mm,
That's when I punted.
mm. Yeah.
Um, so
So I want to get into, I know you had a couple of different kind of side businesses. You also during, over the last 20 years or so have worked at various different agencies and various different roles. So you end up starting Spoke, which was in 2008. Actually October 2008, which I think was right around the time of the Bear Stearns collapse and everything. Okay. So what motivated that? I have an idea what might have motivated it, but I'll let you tell the story.
um, I'd worked at agencies previously, and I was really good at my job, but not a great employee, I don't think. Um, I didn't. Some of the owners of the firms that I worked at were not the most honest people. I'm sorry, my dog's barking.
Okay.
Weren't the most honest folks. Um, and I didn't feel good working for them. Um, so I was out on my own working with a couple other people because I can only do what I can do, and I need other people to do what they do. So there were a few of us working together, and we had a couple clients that one of them is still around, Any Lab Test Now. It's a retail walk-in. It's a franchise selling lab testing. And they're
That is
still
that a client that you've had for now 16
no,
years? Okay,
no.
okay,
We're still friends with
okay,
them.
okay.
They brought things in-house, and they're
Yeah.
doing great. They're great. The other one was called Roadside Medical. And the idea there was to put like minute clinic kind of doc in a box, those, whatever, or not urgent care, but more of like what you see at a Walgreens or a CVS, inside truck stops, because over the road truckers are not it's hard for them to take care of themselves.
Mm,
It could be something managing diabetes, or if they have a sinus infection, or if they get sick. It's when they're out on the road, it's hard for them to pull an 18 wheeler into go see
right,
a doctor.
right.
Um, and we did a couple locations with pilot truck stops, and they were going well. And then the collapse really took the funding out from under them, and that died.
So it sounds like it spoke kind of started organically,
We
and you looked
we
for opportunities.
yeah, and we got
Okay.
married before we dated before we got married. So we were
Okay.
working on projects together. There were a handful of us.
And this was your two eventual partners?
There were four of us at that time.
Okay.
And one of them made it through until I bought two of them out. Another one joined at one point.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, they there were four of us when we started.
So this
Um,
is October 2008. What was it like in those early year or so with the economy in shambles?
it was really tough.
Mm,
So we started with a couple clients that were spending a fair amount of money with us every month. They were growing. There was big potential. One of them cut their budget a lot, and another one went away entirely.
mm,
We just didn't make money for a while.
mm.
It was, we were just we found some work, we found some clients, we did some work, we were doing good work, but people weren't spending. It
Mm.
was tough.
How did you stick through it?
I think perseverance.
Mm,
Um, it just we believed in it. We believed in our model. We believed that we were good at what we did. And we knew that companies that were like, if we can make it through this, we can make it through anything. Um, and knowing that companies who are going to market during a downturn are going to grow market share very cost effectively, and finding those clients with that kind of big picture, long-term thinking, um, was helpful.
yeah. How did you figure out with three or four different partners? How did you figure out who did what? How did you divide up the labor?
It was pretty natural. One of them was a designer. I was a writer, and account executive. One was our technology partner, so building websites, etc. And one of them was more business management and sales.
Yeah.
It was very complementary skill sets.
Yeah. As you look back over, it's 16 or so years later, and how much marketing has evolved and changed since then. Reflect a little bit back on what that's like, what the marketing landscape is like today with AI on the horizon and all these different things compared to 2008.
Put it in perspective, my first job in an agency was in the yellow pages.
Hmm.
So that's how much change I've seen.
Yeah.
Um,
Massive.
it's it's I was working on Allstate, getting them to all their agents to combine eighth page and quarter page ads into a full page ad, and you're going to save money and get better positioning, and and it was like,
Wow.
and where is that now? So
Right.
the change that I've seen has just been incredible,
Yeah.
and it's been a lot of fun. And
How
so
how how have you managed to stay up to speed with those types of changes, evolutionary changes over time?
I think you just embrace it. It's you just, I mean, I'm constantly reading, looking to see what other people are doing, looking at leaders, um, and something as simple as, years ago, I would look at the App Store, and see what the top selling apps were.
Hmm.
And you can figure out the way things are heading. It's like, what is this Instagram? What is this?
Hmm.
So it's like there are ways to monitor and measure what's going on that you just have to look for,
Hmm.
um, and just really embrace it.
Yeah. What was so there? I'm sure there's been highs and lows during that time period. COVID was one of them. So 2020. I believe you still had two partners at that point. What was that experience like for you when COVID hit and the world was shutting down? Was that petrifying? Many agencies will say that it slowed down, but then immediately sped up.
Yeah, that was what it was an instant slowdown, but then once people got stimulus money and people realized that digital was going to, there was a lot of digital transformation. I think a lot of
Yeah.
companies that do that really thrived.
Hmm.
People were understanding that sales methods changed, that in-person meetings and trade shows, just recently, I think, came back to where they were. So finding ways, people still needed to sell and buy. People still had problems they needed to solve through products and services.
Yeah.
Just
And
adjusting.
and with Spoke, were you already providing all those services, or did COVID require you to change the way that you operated or change the services that you provided?
We adjusted some of the services. We certainly did new trade shows,
Hmm.
but we've dabbled with like the virtual trade shows. Um, we we went as a guest, as visitors. We attended some virtual trade shows before we put clients in it, and we didn't really end up putting clients. We put one client wanted to be in a virtual trade show,
Hmm.
and we helped with that, but we didn't strongly recommend it.
Yeah, I remember how weird that was. These
Yeah.
rooms and networking and all this kind of different stuff, and they'd sell digital ad banners or whatever. Like, yeah,
It wasn't
it didn't work that
it
well.
wasn't it wasn't the same.
Yeah.
But we I think what we did changed, how we did it changed. We um e- Everyone went home and everyone's been working remotely from our shop since, which
Yeah.
is um
So that was a big change. Then how did that affect the culture of the company?
it I was really scared about that. I was scared about the culture of the company, but I was also scared about bringing on new team members, how that how that would go. How do you get them to buy into the culture? And um, I think you just you learned, I think probably from EO, you've heard it. It's like hire for culture,
Hmm.
hire for culture fit, and then people you can train anyone to do something, anything. And if they have most people have the capacity to do something, but if they're not a cultural fit, it'll never work.
And
Uh,
did you start hiring people from outside of the St. Louis area?
we didn't.
Hmm.
We could. We do. Some of our contractors are certainly outside, but
Hmm.
all of our full-time people are still in the St. Louis area,
Hmm.
unnecessarily. It's just, I think it's people we know. I've been in the agency world in this town for a long time, and so have my peers. So we just know a lot of really good people in town,
Yeah.
and we keep our culture strong. Um, we get together about once a month. Doesn't sound like that much, but we get together once a month for a group learning. Uh,
Hmm.
like we'll at our we have a virtual office,
Hmm.
not virtual, temporary co-working office.
Yeah.
So we'll get there together once a month, and then we'll meet with clients there in between, or meet there in between.
Yeah.
We've
Um, and I imagine you've noticed that the clients are more accepting of that. A lot of agencies, a lot of companies before COVID felt like they had to have a retail footprint because,
yeah.
reputation, the clients expected it, that sort of thing. And you've noticed a change in that.
There are still some holdouts. There
Mm.
are still people who um, want you to have a physical space, and we have that in our co-working space serves that purpose. Um, but for the most part, yeah,
Yeah.
everyone's accepting of it. I mean, people are used to having dogs barking.
Yeah, right. And I teased at the beginning the idea of starting with strategy rather than tactics. And we also talked about how much things have changed in the marketing world over the last 16 years. Has the way that you approach strategy with clients changed, or is it kind of the same series of questions, same kind of inquisition? I guess what is it like now, like with the landscape of AI on the horizon and stuff like that? What is a process look like to figure out what is the right strategy for any given company?
AI, well, the internet's made doing research a lot easier. So either secondary or primary research is very affordable for a lot of companies. So
Yeah. I think back about like writing papers in high school and like I grew up in Los Angeles and having to like drive 45 minutes down to the UCLA library to write a paper in high school, which is just a little mind boggling now that it was so difficult to get, particular books.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in college too.
Yeah.
So that type of research, competitive analysis, but again, just primary research, like doing studies or it's just so that's a lot easier.
Yeah.
Um, and we definitely use AI to help us with our work product. And that's made us more efficient. We can do things faster, but it's kind of like how Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop or whatever has made design easier, or it's just another tool.
Yeah.
Um, it's not the strategy and the thinking still has to happen, and we haven't found a way to short circuit that. We still voice of the customer interviews, win-loss interviews, um, and then really diving in and talking to clients and their sales teams, and getting that information is it's huge. And understanding that humans haven't changed because of I mean, sure, we've changed because of the internet, but we still make our decisions the same way.
Right.
Make our decisions based on emotion and then backfill it with logic. So it's still tapping into that and that human psychology, of understanding people and how it's not what you want to say, it's what they want to hear. That hasn't changed. And I don't see that changing. I
Yeah.
don't know what websites will look like 20 years from now. I mean, who knows with virtual reality and AI, the human psychology is pretty deeply ingrained.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And it says this the son of a psychologist, right? Or psychiatrist. Yeah.
right. Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
it's like we still react like, cavemen a lot of times.
Yeah. 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 And I forget the name of it, but I think you do have I think you call it VTO or something like that. Like this is a process that you take clients through to figure out their messaging, figure out their strategy. Do you want to talk about what that's like?
So, yeah, VTO is an EOS term. So we work with a lot of clients that run on EOS, the entrepreneurial operating system,
Yeah.
uh, and others that work with scaling up or Bloom Growth is a newer one. I mean,
Mm.
there are a lot of Rockefeller habits. There's there are a lot of business frameworks that people use, um, and the process we would call it destination mapping, where we'll go through and figure out. That's where we do the really deep dive. That's where we ask. We'll do client discovery, where it's a workshop, and it's 2 or 3 hours of us after we've done a lot of research, where we're asking a lot of questions. We might have done voice of the customer research before then as well, and really getting to the root of what what makes the company unique, what the
Mm.
benefit is, how does that relate to the people that they're trying to sell to.
And voice of the customer is calling up their customers and
Oh yeah.
asking them questions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it's just exactly, it's calling up a customer and finding out, why did you choose them? Why are you working with them? What's it like to work with them? And you you find out a lot of great information.
Yeah. I was going to say, what's that like when you present that to the client, your client? Like, are there times where they're just like, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea that we were doing this or that they were having this impression"?
I I don't think people are generally too surprised.
Mm.
I think it's validating and it might allow them to speak the unspoken.
Mm.
It's like, yeah, we knew that was a problem we weren't
Mm.
addressing, or it's it's it it puts a lot out on the table, but it
And it's
also is
probably
insightful and
easier for
understanding for the
you.
people who are
It's probably easier for you too, rather than you having to be like, I can like hold a mirror up to them and say, like, this is what you're messing up on.
Right.
Instead, you can say, look, I'm just reporting what your own clients have told us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
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 It definitely gives you a little third party cover
Yeah.
to to say things they need to hear.
So I know you now run the company on your own. You actually bought out your two remaining partners. What motivated that, and what has it been like running the company after all these years running it yourself now?
So the big benefit, so it happened, nothing bad happened, nothing blew up. One of my former partners went to go work for a former client, and he became a client. And the other partner that I'm buying out still works at Spoke. He didn't want to work full time anymore and wanted
Mm,
to pull some chips off the table. So it just made
yeah.
sense for him and his life cycle where he's at. Um, the thing that I didn't know going into it that I wish I would have known is owning a third of the company, you still worry about 100% of the stuff. Like it's not like, it's like you're still responsible if something goes south, it still potentially falls on you.
Yeah.
So you got 100% of the downside and 30%, 33% of the upside. So why not just take the 100% of the upside?
Mm, mm,
So that was an aha for me.
yeah. So there isn't a part of you that maybe thinks, well, maybe the company wouldn't be where it is today, or maybe it wouldn't have grown to the size that it's at without the business partners. Do you think you could have done it on your own, or is that not go into the calculus of your this observation?
At some point, um, I never took an accounting class or a finance class or that many business classes. So the business
Yeah.
of business,
Yeah.
it
Same here, by the
took me a
way.
while to learn.
Yeah. I took one in community college and didn't finish it. So, like an
Yeah.
accounting class.
So it's like that's the kind of stuff that I really had to learn
Yeah.
the hard way and make some mistakes. But once we got through that, um, as we would work together, by the end, I was handling most of the business stuff anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. So then it definitely makes sense. This wouldn't be a podcast interview in 2025 without me asking about AI and the impact on your business. So we've talked about it, I guess, a little bit already. But any further thoughts on how AI is going to affect the work that you do in the future, or not at all?
Right now, I'm seeing it as a tool that
Mm,
um, it's we're able to work more efficiently. I'm able to take transcript notes and feed them into a chat GPT or a Claude or whatever
yeah.
and create personas. It's definitely sped things up.
Yeah.
But I still have to ask the right question.
Yeah.
Uh, Will it get to the point where AI is taking place of people? I don't know. I'm sure. I mean, someday, who knows?
Hmm.
Right now, it's a better hammer.
How do you you mentioned that you are and or were the writer in the partnership. I've always identified as a writer, had number of jobs that were professional writing jobs. How does it affect your own personal identity?
So I unfortunately haven't been one of our main copywriters in years. Um, I and I say unfortunately because I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's that I love the creative part of it. I love the problem solving part of it. Um, but I love working with writers now too.
Yeah.
So, um, and
So it's not that much of a leap then if you weren't the one creating the copy, writing the copy anyways.
and it's still okay.
Hmm.
I still like if I'm writing something, I'll run it past AI and say, I am this, you are this. Tell me, what am I missing?
Yeah.
Like, what
Yeah.
holes are there? So it's like way better than spell check.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like
That's what
this.
I say to people is like spell check on steroids. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
spell check, and then there's Grammarly
Hmm.
helped me with some of my tenses. I'm sure that I was missing, or
Yeah.
with some split,
Yeah.
the split sentences. Um, so it's just an extension of that. It's still I'm not gonna. You still need a human in the loop. There's
Yeah.
nothing. Maybe that'll change, but right now there's nothing that we would take straight out of an AI and deliver it to a client.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're near good enough.
I know we're just about at time. So, David, this has been great, and I want to wrap up with my last question, which is my gratitude question. I'm a big fan of practicing gratitude and also giving our guests a little bit of space at the end here to acknowledge anyone, especially peers or contemporaries or mentors who've helped them in their journey. Is there anyone that you'd want to shout out and acknowledge?
Look, I know you're in EO. My EO forum, I've been in 3 different ones, and each one has helped me immeasurably. Whether it's, you know, I remember my first forum, I was complaining about not understanding the finances. And it was a few meetings where I'm like, I'm just looking at these things. And Don Sufco was just like, looked at me and this wasn't very non-gestalt of him, as yeah. He's like, shut the F up. Like, you've been talking about that for the last 3 meetings. Get your calendar out. We're going to go to lunch. We're going to spend 2 hours. You're going to print out all your stuff, and I'm going to walk you through what these reports mean. And it's just that. It's like, whether it's navigating the buyout of my partners,
Yeah.
that was difficult. The loss of a client, or hiring somebody, or firing. It's just having that peer group has been invaluable.
Mm.
And I've had a couple mentors through EO. Kevin Carley helped me a couple years. He was great to go, and somebody who's been there, done that, to look at your business through that lens. And I've got one now, Tim Donnie, who's just a powerhouse in St. Louis. And the fact that he gives me a half an hour, once a week, it's incredible how generous people are with their time and their wisdom.
That's great.
Yeah.
David, this has been great. Where can people go to learn more about you, connect with you, learn more about Spoke?
Spokemarketing.com, or they can reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Excellent. David, thanks so much.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Smart Business Revolution podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.